This guy is a fellow Penn State track and field alum, running professional PRs of 341 in the 1500s, 757 for the 3000 meters, and 1358 in the 5K. In college, was finishing consistently on the medal stands at indoor and outdoor Big Ten track and field championships in the mile and 1500. Also competed at the NCAA cross country championships, and was the fourth sub 4 miler for Penn State track and field, competing on some of the biggest stages in the NCAA in the United States. This is Colin Abert.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, we were just chatting before we kind of started this with kind of injury battles and stuff like that. But I kind of want to start with where you got into track and field and what was the catalyst kind of into your career.
Yeah, so I think I don't think I always chose running. Sometimes I think it chose me just because of my frame, my body, but loved sports growing up and loved tag. Like every day recess, in elementary school, it's like, let's play tag, freeze tag, whatever kind of tag. I was always in there. And loved running around. They had these track meets in elementary school that were like, it was like once a year for third and fourth graders. I went there and I did pretty well. So I was like, hey, let's give this running a shot. And my parents decided to take me to, I think, a cross country practice when I was either in fifth or sixth grade, so I wasn't even old enough to actually be on the team. But they took me there just to see what it was all about, and I kind of fell in love with it. Had a great support staff there. My coaches were phenomenal. Bobby Joe Powell and her husband, Mr. Powell, and they made it fun. They made it exciting, and I couldn't get enough of it in growing up. So
You grew up in Carlisle, right?
no, I'm in Easton, so I was
Easton.
District 11, but
Okay, got you.
went against plenty of good people from Carlisle area.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say Carlisle, man. They got some good
that
runners.
that was the Zach Brem
Yeah.
era when I was in high school. So he was a
So when you
legend. He won the 800, the mile, and then the 2 mile the next year. So crazy.
Jeez, that's insane. That's a run in
Mhm.
PIAA,
Yeah.
man.
Oh my gosh.
That's a tough and AAA.
Ye-
That's tough.
Yeah. So he did it like he did it each, like freshman year he won something, sophomore year he won something. He just kept doing different events, and it was a shock.
Wow,
Sadly,
that's
he
nuts.
he he outkicked me right at the line in my senior year, so
Oh
came in
man,
second, but he's still respected guy, and really good race by him. So
yeah. Well, shout out Carlisle then.
yeah. Wonder if they
So
still have the talent.
yeah, I don't know. But in high school, you were able to run some pretty fast PRs, man. You ran 413 in the mile, if I'm right. Mile split says 406 for a different random person. Not sure who that is, but
Oh yeah.
I believe 413 and 856, which was nuts at the time. Now it's kind of looking back, like sub 9 is almost like a standard now that is almost like it looks easy to people at this point.
Hmm.
And sub 410 just looks like it's a walk in the park. Did you ever
Yeah.
think, looking back, that like those times when you were there were second in the state and first in the state? Like, did you ever think now it would
Yeah.
be that's the standard?
So at first, I remember I think it was probably like my first year, second year in college. We'd always check, oh, what was the state race results, like who ran this, who ran that, and then just kind of like seeing how fast the high schoolers were. So those first couple years, I remember being pretty shocked, like, oh my goodness, like how fast are these guys getting? But then after that, it's like records are meant to be broken, and they're gonna get broken. So nothing really surprises me anymore, at least. And there's such, there's more information out there. Some bad information, but some good information, a lot of good information if you can find the right sources. So people, they find out how to train like professional athletes while they're in high school and sometimes middle school. I hope not that early, but and yeah, it's just, as long as these people are dedicated to their training, they're running really fast and they're going to continue to get faster.
Yeah, when you were in high school, obviously finishing at top of the races in most of your races, jumping into the NCAA, what was that sort of like, that transition from high school into college?
It was exciting. Definitely scary at the same time. I was in a district that didn't have like District 1 was the district that had like all the, really, really fast runners. Not that other districts didn't, but District 11, where I, ran, I was the number one runner in the district from sophomore year all the way to senior year. I don't think I lost any league races or anything like that. So it was exciting to have, people to push me that were on my team and in the races that I was in. It was just like it was definitely humbling to go to practice and fight through that first. You went to Penn State, so the progression run at the end of preseason where you're just like struggling to survive, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I'll be able to compete this year because these guys are so fast. But it's definitely a good experience to be able to push you to run faster, and having people to chase after definitely helps.
Yeah, man, I remember my first progression run. I was supposed to be like an 8 mile tempo or something as part of a cut down, and I was like 5 miles in. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
But when you got to college, you were kind of able to make like a seamless transition almost into running at a high level. You finished fourth at the Big Tens in outdoor and 1500 as a freshman. What was that kind of like, jumping from high school where you were at the top to doing it again?
Yeah. Freshman year was definitely my favorite year out of all the years. I stayed healthy, and I had such a good team around me that the guys were all super supportive. I had Brandon Kidder, who I'm sure you've heard of him before, and some other like Robbie Crease, who was 357 miler, and all these other guys that I looked up to, and they talk about like middle distance, like that we were a powerhouse at that time, and it was great to have them to kind of give me confidence. I remember the big jump was, I think I ran like 4:12 or something, and Brandon Kidder, I was talking to him, and I told him, I said, I was like, what do you think I can do in this 1500 indoors? Which, it was weird that we were even running that indoors. We were doing
Yeah.
that for Robbie Crease, but he was like, I think you can run 3:45 or something like that. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what? I ended up running like 3:48, but that was like a huge drop in time, like comparatively to my mile PR. So it's like, hey, if you say I can do it and you're this talented runner, I'm gonna believe you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Some of those guys are, natural qualifiers, obviously, like yourself. Robbie Crease, man, collegiate
Oh my
records.
gosh.
He's almost like a staple of the program. I feel like you can't mention Penn State track and field without mentioning Crease Lightning.
He's one of my favorites stories. Just I don't know if you've ever heard when he came into Penn State. I think he was one of the like slowest on the team. Like he was like last in cross country. And I think he might have had an injury at some point before then, but then he turned it around for indoor track, and like I think he broke 4 that year or ran like insanely fast. So it's cool to see like kind of switch gears and get a lot faster than where you were just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I think he broke the collegiate record his freshman year, right?
Yeah.
In the 1K?
I don't remember, sadly. I
I
know
think.
Brandon Kidder had it at one point too, but yeah, a lot of talent at Penn State. So
Were you there for the race with Kaz Loxam and Zay in the 600?
yes, yeah, that was an exciting event. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that one. That's when the 600 was being broken like every other week.
Yeah, it was literally. I think they ran it in State College at like 2 o'clock. They set the world record. Zay set the
Hmm.
collegiate record, which would have
Yeah.
been the world record if Kaz didn't
Hmm.
beat him. And then 45 minutes later in Europe somewhere,
Oh,
somebody broke the world record
that
again.
yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh. At least you can say you had it at one point.
Former world record holder for the
Yeah,
shortest.
yeah.
That might be the world record for the shortest amount of time a world record has ever
I
been
just
held.
I just need to travel back like 100 years and I'd have all the world records. Although maybe not with the technology. So,
Maybe.
but yeah.
Yeah, you'd be running on dirt tracks and long spikes.
Hmm. Hmm.
What were some of the hardest parts about running in college? Obviously, the mental side of things is semi tougher than the training itself because, like you said, you're running these progression runs with these guys that are, you feel like you're just as good as them, but then you get in those workouts and it's almost a mental battle as much as it is physical. What
Yeah.
were some of the struggles that you kind of had
I mean,
at Penn State?
breaking it down between, I would say, the academic struggles, and then the athletic struggles. It was just a weird transition going to, in high school. If you're a good athlete, there's kind of some leniency, like, oh, you missed this because of, your race, like we'll let you, redo it, or, we'll give you extra help or something like that. Whereas if you don't go and like physically visit during office hours and like communicate with the professors, they don't really care that you're a varsity athlete. So I remember struggling. It was one of my like calc classes that I had, and I think it was the spring semester of my freshman year where I just was like missing so much class and was like, I just want to like get through this and survive it. So luckily I did. I graduated. But and then moving on to the athletic side, I would just say it was really difficult to get used to, one, increasing the workload that you're doing. I was a pretty low mileage guy in high school, capping off, like, I think my longest or my highest mileage week was like a couple times I hit 50. Most of the time I was in like the 30s and 40s. So doing consistently 50s and getting up to 60 my freshman year, that was tough. Just you feel tired all the time. You realize like, hey, I need to eat a lot of food if I'm going to be able to maintain burning off this many calories. So that you're just kind of tired and getting adjusted to, going all over the country for races. And then in addition to that, just I'm a very competitive guy, so I would try to basically race against everyone at practices and whatnot. So it's like you're also not letting yourself recover when you should. So
Yeah.
those are the struggles for me, at least, that I had.
Yeah, and the group that you were competing with wasn't just like a semi-average kind of group. They were
Yeah,
world-class runners at the same time.
yeah. Penn
Um,
State.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Penn State has definitely had their fair share of fast runners. So
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of nuts to look back now and be like, wow, there's this many sub 4 milers that have run. Obviously, you were one of those few that have broken 4 minutes at Penn State. Take me through that race. I actually think I was there to watch that race go down. Like,
hmm
oddly enough, I have no idea why I was there, but it was special just watching it. But take me through the feeling of finally
yeah,
breaking that.
yeah. I mean, so one of my goals like was always to break 4. I had originally set that goal in 8th grade when I broke 5 minutes in the mile. I was like, all right, I can't wait to break 4 now. I didn't realize it was going to take me like 8 years, almost a decade later, to do it. But so funny enough, I remember doing the same warm up loop that we always did the before races. You'd go out by like the library and come back down around back to the track, and I felt horrible. I this is probably the worst I've ever felt. I was like, I honestly, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to even do this race because it just like something felt weird. I even remember like the strides the previous day, like running like 30 seconds for like a 200. I was like, I'm gonna have to do this that many times. So going into it, I was a little nervous, not feeling great. And I remember I had Dominic Peretta as my pacer for it. So he
Oh,
got
that's
out
money.
so fast. He got out so fast, which was definitely good for me to like kind of chase after. But I remember from 200 meters in, my legs felt like shot. I was like, this. I don't know if this is going to be the race or not, but I'm going to definitely try my hardest. I remember getting to about halfway through it, and like all I could see on the clock each time we went around the 200 meters was like 59:29, 59:29, because that's obviously what you see when you're going sub 4 minute pace. And I remember getting to about like 800 meters and like getting to like eventually the 3/4 into the race. I thought, if I don't do this now, I don't think I'm ever going to do it, because I am in so much pain and like I need to make this pain worth it. So it's like I just remember the last 200 meters just going straight to the arms, like pumping as hard as I could, and just being ecstatic once I found out that I broke it. One of my favorite pictures is the moment right afterwards. I just have my hands like straight up in the air and I'm just screaming. So definitely a special moment. Even one of my high school assistant cross country coaches was there, so that
That's
was
awesome.
like one of the only times that he visited like during an indoor season. So it was cool that he was there for that, and some of my family. So definitely a cool experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think Dom might have paced the most amount of sub 4 milers ever run on
Yeah.
that track before. It was like almost every year he was the pacer for the mile, and it was just Villanova,
Just
Georgetown, Penn State guys
that
going sub
800,
4.
that's his event.
Yeah, so would you like got after the sub 4, you broke it again, right? And
So not in college, but I
okay,
broke it. I broke four, I would say four times, like full mile. One time was road, the other times were on the track. And then I've run probably like five or six equivalent sub fours for the 1500, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. When you stepped on the track at Boston, right, to break
Yeah,
4 again as a professional, what was that
yeah,
sort of mindset? Obviously, in college, that's like kind of the standard. Now you're a
yeah.
professional running at Boston. What
Well,
was that like?
Boston was just a struggle to me, honestly, just because of like you don't I don't know if they still have it set up this way, but you don't find out like what heat you're in until like right before.
Yeah,
And I was hoping that I was going to be in the fastest heat, but I was the first one in the second heat. That was like my entire like professional career was being the first one out of the fast heat and then like trying to win it from the second heat. So sometimes it can be nice though because it helps to spread it out a little bit. Like if you're further up front, like it's less chaotic than if you're in the back with a pack of people. But yeah, I loved racing at Boston. The track felt so good, and it was just exciting to be in that full crowd that Boston always has.
yeah.
And to break four again is just you're never going to be upset when you break four.
Obviously, it's a barrier that is kind of always there, whether you've run it before or not. But it's just something that's unmatched in terms of what you're
Mhm.
running. Um, would you compare sub 8 to being sub 4, or is it completely different?
I would say it's different. I think maybe running low, like under 755, I would say would maybe even breaking 750, even though I think breaking 750 is better than breaking four. It's
Yeah.
just like it's just such a special number to break four, and back when they said it wasn't even physically possible for humans to do it, and then Roger Bannister was like, no, no, no.
Now you got guys running 343 or
Oh,
345 in indoors.
oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. I just can't wait for Hikam El Garouge's records to go down.
You think it will?
I don't know. I mean eventually, but man, they're fast.
Yeah, it's sort of the theory of nobody could break 4, and now it's like, okay, everybody has thought El Garouge
No
was
one's.
doping out of his mind. But
Yeah,
now we're
yeah.
watching modern science,
Jakob
modern
and
testing, and everybody
all these
still have to
guys.
go through that and be able to run 3-4
Hmm.
pretty dang
Well,
close.
even the second place runner in that 1500 meter or no mile world record. He
Yeah,
has the second fastest time of all time, I think. So
yeah,
special race. Sometimes you
yeah,
need the right weather too. I took it
yeah.
for granted having the indoor track for all the indoor races. It's like you don't have to worry about wind in there.
And the workouts, man, that makes it so
Oh
much easier.
yeah, yeah. That was actually the toughest thing with switching to being a professional runner was running on a flat track in Minnesota.
That was my next question. I was going to ask you
Yeah, good.
what the hardest part about transitioning out of the NCAA into being a pro was, but maybe it's the indoor track.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely up there. But I do actually have to say it was nicer. Like I always thought of things that would give you a boost. Like come race day, like I'm not wearing my spikes all the time. I put on my spikes, they feel good. Now it's like the super shoes. I try not to work out in them all the time. But it was like weird going from flat track to a bank track. I remember one of the first times that I didn't get to do that much track practice before one of my like indoor rust busters at Penn State. Actually, I went back there, and when I was just running along the curves, my legs were getting like sore. Like it felt weird just being up on a bank. It's like, oh, I got to just practice on here just to get used to it. So yeah, that was definitely difficult to get used to, and also adjusting your times because it's like if you're running on flat track it's going to be slower, so like don't try to run your fastest splits possible. But other than that, one of the toughest things is just not having as much of a routine as you did in college. We only met like 3 days a week, so a lot of it was running on your own, and I will never ever be a fan of doubles. Oh my gosh, I hate doubles so much, but you got to get the mileage in, and it's tough to do it all at once. So definitely helpful to have the doubles, but never something I looked forward to.
Man, I think one of the most brutal doubles I'd ever had was in Colorado in the summers. We were running, I think I was at like 90 miles a week, and so you're running like 12 miles in the morning, and it's nice. It's beautiful days outside. Like, you can't beat Colorado mornings.
Oh
But
yeah.
man, 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. doubles roll around, and it's a 3 or 4 mile double. It's like 96 degrees outside. I'm good. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. And then it's always awkward. Like, how many clothes do I have to wash in a week if I'm doing like I'm not gonna sit around in these dirty clothes all day. So
I want to ask you kind of the reality of running professionally when you're not signed to like a large, Nike or Adidas contract, and what do people not understand about how difficult the professional running scene really is?
well, one of the most difficult things or that people probably don't realize is how little or how there aren't that many teams in the US that you can even run for and be considered, a professional runner, even if it's at the kind of lower end compared to these, big brand sponsorships. So I traveled from Pennsylvania all the way to Minnesota because that was one of the few teams that was looking to add middle distance runners to their team, and I'm very grateful that they were. There's the Run Pro camp. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not, but that was probably one of the best resources that I used to get some knowledge about what's out there. And it is difficult. I think one of my least favorite things after college was having to like schedule everything, schedule the
Yeah.
races that you're in. It's like I have to travel across the country and pay 50 something dollars to run for 3 minutes and something, seconds, like for the 1500. And it's like the races are also much different or much more difficult to like kind of like have your coach say, oh, let's sneak you in this heat, even though
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have the time. I would go to these track races and I would be in the seventh heat, where there's 15 guys that are all running 341, and let me tell you, the track is not that big when you're all trying to funnel into the inside lane. So definitely a struggle. I really liked the road events more than the track events once I was running professionally. Just there's a lot more room, and then there's a lot more opportunity to include more people, since it's not just an 8 lane track that you have to shove all these people in, and especially for the shorter distance races where you are going for it pretty right off the gun.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite parts about going pro and getting out of the college kind of race schedule and stuff like that?
I mean, I feel like there was such a attention to the specifics that each athlete needed. I was on a team of maybe, it might have been like 10, 12 people. And Chris Lundstrom, I would pick his brain about everything. He would probably get annoyed with how many questions I had, but just so much knowledge that he, brought to the table. And it was like, if something wasn't going right for me, he could adjust it right away. Oh, let's take off a couple days. Whereas in college, it is a step up from high school, but it's still, I say, like kind of coaching on average. Like, how can I get the entire team on the same schedule and get them as fast as I can? Where it's like I'm specializing or specifying one specific week for this specific athlete because this is what he or she needs. So
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. And then just the flexibility of not needing to prepare for, 3 conference meets, and peak that many times in a season. It's like, let's build in the indoor season and get ready for the outdoor season.
Yeah. What was the lifestyle difference between being a college athlete and a professional athlete, or was it pretty similar?
I mean, I would say it's pretty similar. It's probably easier in college just because of the routine that you're on, where you have those practices. We had the fueling station at Penn State, which I still miss that to this day. It's like I have to run. All I want to do is eat some food.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot to go to the grocery store, of course. So no, but yeah, and then just like you have like there's not as much dependency on you as being a good teammate for everyone else. Whereas like you're seeing these people every day. They can kind of hold you a little bit more accountable if you're doing something that maybe you shouldn't. You're not eating correctly, or you're not getting right sleep. I feel like it's a little bit easier for like your teammates that you're around all the time to kind of say, hey, like knock it off, or like let's focus on getting a little bit better, being a little bit better. So a lot more individual kind of approaches to training and doing everything right. But if you're running at that level, you should be able to do that yourself. So
Yeah. I kind of want to ask you three quick questions to kind of finish
Yeah.
out the episode, but my first question for you is the best piece of advice for incoming freshmen into the NCAA.
Yeah, so I kind of think it'd be good to break this into two different pieces of advice. One is for the purely like the running aspect of it, like you want to get as best as you can, and kind of this is how you do it. I would say to really learn your body. Um, I remember some like we would have guest speakers and like really high level athletes come talk to us, and one of them spoke to me and or to the group and said like I journal everything. Like I write everything down, the weather for this practice, and maybe you don't need to go as in depth, but if you take note of, how you're feeling and just, the little things like today was a good day, felt a little tweak here, blah blah blah, you won't notice the like how much it helps you in the beginning, but then, a year or two later, all of a sudden there's some similar experience that you kind of went through before, you have it written down and you know how to approach it, because half the battle is just staying healthy. So if you know a lot about your body and kind of what you can take, what you can't take, you don't want to repeat the same mistake twice.
Yeah,
um, and then the other piece of advice is just to know what you're looking for. Like really take some time and think, what am I hoping to get out of this college experience? Because in reality, it's very tough to continue running post collegiately. So if that's something that you want to really go for, like you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot. So you have to know like, hey, this is what I'm going for, and this is what I'm gonna sacrifice to get there. If you just want to participate in the sport and help your team out, maybe you're not as like cutthroat with it, but I don't know, you have to really know what you're hoping to get out of it, and make the proper steps towards making that happen.
yeah, absolutely. With second journaling everything and following up, and even just like you're not obviously going to look back at everything that you've done, but even just writing it down, you sort of have this like mental note behind you that it's like, oh, that did happen. I kind of remember that. Whereas if you never write
Hmm.
it down, you don't even kind of think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
My second question is your best memory from track and field.
So, my best memory is definitely breaking 4 minutes. Like, there's just nothing that will ever come close to that. But outside of that, one of my favorite high school moments from running, not necessarily track, but from cross country, was just the first race that I won when I was a freshman, and we went to this one invitation, and I was a nobody at that point. Like no one really knew who I was, and I remember my coach laying out like the perfect plan. She's like, all right, what we're going to do, it's a windy day. You're going to draft behind, so and so, which these were like two of the better runners in the district at the time. And then at this point, there was like a cone out that we had to run around. It's like, this point, you make your move. So I decided to follow the plan, and I made my move. And that was the first race where I was like, whoa, this running thing is, I could be decent at it.
Yeah, you get a taste of that victory, man, and you just
Oh,
want
yeah.
more.
Yeah. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah, my third question is your favorite athlete or top three to watch right now.
So my favorite athlete has got to be my previous teammate Dakota Popin. So I don't know if you know who she is, but obviously she made the Olympics the most recent one in the marathon. So cool to see that happen. But in addition, I just love my watching my past teammates from Minnesota Distance Elite. Just see them logging the miles, wishing I was still out there with them. But yeah, it's always fun to check back in with them, see how they're doing, and watch another Olympian hopefully come to the
Yeah,
table.
that would be awesome.
Mhm.
So you had mentioned before we started about like road racing and kind of potentially getting into longer distances. Is that something that's up next for you?
I hope so. I took a nice little break. I just felt a little burnt out from it, but hoping to get, once the weather turns a little bit nicer, I was like, I'm gonna start this a couple months ago, and then we had like these like ice storms and sleet, and I'm like, all right, I'll just push it off a little bit. But yeah, definitely jump into the longer distance things. I feel like as you get older, it's just hard to really rip those workouts for the like faster speed oriented kind of track racing and road races or whatever that are lower distance. But yeah, I'd like to get eventually to running a marathon, half marathon. I haven't even done that yet. So my longest is 10 miles, but I'd like to, maybe try to make the Olympic marathon trials for the next, go around. So we'll see if that
Yeah,
happens.
That'd be awesome. Well, thanks again, Colin, for the time. Great talking with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, a great Penn State example. So yeah, I appreciate taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.